We used the impact rule to our favour as far as a bowler was concerned, that had the right skills for the right situation. So I think the evolution of bowlers still has to be there and getting better. A great example of that right now is Shreyas Iyer. I mean, you watch him walk out to bat the other day. He walked out with a certain amount of swagger about him because he's confident. He knows he's playing well. He knows he's preparing well. And he knows if he does his little things right, then, he can't fail. That's the thing that I always say to the players. If you prepare as well as you can and then you go out and stick to your game plan, you can't fail. Yes, you might make a mistake, but you've actually done everything you can to make an impact on the game.
Indian cricket will be always deeply obliged for you for the conversation you had with Rahul Dravid at the end of a series, where Rahul was didn't have a great series, and you said that don't entertain the thoughts of retiring, and he listened to you, and then he had a terrific, I think, his best ever England series, right? So what it is in a player which you would see or try to understand that, okay, his time is up, and more so in India right now, like the same debate is on about Virat and Rohit to more extent after the Australia series.
Look, with Virat, I mean, I've been on record with Virat for the last couple of years. You never write off quality players. We had a lot of talk around McGrath, a lot of talk around Hayden, these guys at the back end of their career, but they're champions for a reason, and they'll always find a way to come good. This is the difference, right? Like, Jonty was a better athlete than me. He was quicker. He moved better laterally than I did. But if I ever got to the ball and got the ball in my hand, then I probably felt that I hit the stumps as much as anybody. So it depends how you want to categorise fielding. Is it all about the spectacular save, or is it making catches and taking wickets? Because I think the best fielders, like the best keepers now.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Vinayak with the Indian Express Sports team. We have with us a very special guest today. Growing up as an Indian cricket fan, Ricky Ponting was the architect of many a heartbreak that some of us still can't forget. As a batter, as a captain of that fearsome Australian team, and who can forget his pull shot, of course. But in the past few years, thanks to the IPL, he has become even more familiar to the current generation in his multiple roles with the league, player, captain, coach, mentor. Ricky Ponting has worn many hats, and including that of a commentator who can see a thing or two well before it happens. And today he joins us for a special episode of the Indian Express Idea Exchange, where we get to pick his mind on a variety of topics. Thanks a lot for joining us, Ricky. I have a few colleagues who have a variety of questions lined up for you, but before that, a couple of warm-up questions from my end, if you're good to go.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks. So, first and foremost, what is more stressful, being the Australian captain or a coach in the IPL?
That's a good question to start with. I think they both are quite stressful jobs, to be honest. I mean, I think being captain of the Australian cricket team is one of the biggest and probably most prestigious sporting jobs in the world when you look at leadership and captaincy and the success that Australian cricket teams have had for such a long period of time. I think expectation is there that, if you're playing cricket for Australia, or certainly if you're a leader, that you're going to win most games that you play, and you're going to win most tournaments that you turn up to. So there's certainly a lot of pressure that comes with even just playing international cricket. It's there's only obviously 11 people that wants to get the opportunity to play for their respective countries. So there's some pressure that comes with that. But I guess when you're the leader as well, and you're the leader of a very proud cricketing nation like Australia is, and certainly like India is, then there's added pressure. And then, I mean, the other side of that is, the IPL coaching role. This is, and I totally believe that this is the strongest domestic competition in the world. You've got all the best players here at one single time. You've got a lot of the best coaches in the world here at the same time as well. And, I'm now the head coach of a franchise that's never won the IPL. So that's my job this year, is to bring success to the Punjab Kings that has never happened before. So yes, there's a certain amount of pressure that comes with that, but you can't sit back and think about the external things that happen around a team. You've got to think about what you can do internally to take that pressure away from your players, make the players feel really comfortable, and let them play with freedom and express themselves. So that's sort of where we've been sort of pushing towards the last few weeks. We've had obviously a couple of really good weeks of training and preparation. Our first game went pretty much to script as well, with a good win over GT. So yeah, things are starting to fall into place, and I'm really enjoying the time here. Actually, it's pretty much a fresh start as far as the playing group's concerned, with only retaining the two younger Indian players and going into the auction with the biggest purse, and then trying to sort of rebuild the team and the franchise from the bottom up. And I feel that we've all done a really good job to put a really strong squad of players together.
That kind of leads us into the next question that I had. What were your conversations with the Punjab Kings owners? Did you have any prerequisites? Did you want some sort of reassurances on how you'd be able to run the team? Could you just elaborate the sort of talks that you had before you decided to take up this role?
Yeah, look, I obviously had a lot of conversations with the board and with the owners about my vision for the team and the franchise and where I wanted to take it. And to be honest, the owners have been terrific. From the moment that I started talking with them, we did hours and hours of preparation leading up to the auction. We had 3 really good days, or 4 days actually, in Riyadh for the auction. 2 really good days at the auction table where, as I said, I think the squad's come together really well. And everything that I've sort of asked for around the team so far has happened, with as far as the training camps are concerned, as far as, the right management people around the team that I wanted. Brought a new bowling coach in James Hopes as well, that's worked with me in Delhi for a long time. So, and, I made it really clear to the owners, and they made it really clear to me first and foremost that, now that I've got this job and this role, that this is my team, and we're gonna run it the way that I want things to be run, obviously in conjunction with the owners and what they feel is right as well. At the end of the day, it is their team. But as far as the cricket side of it goes, I want it to be really clear that that I wanted it to be my team, and I'm the one that's responsible for the wins and losses along the way. And so far, it's been great. It's been great buy-in from everyone, and the players have been terrific. And Shreyas has added a lot as far as his experience and leadership qualities are concerned, which was a big part of it for me. So everything's going along nicely.
Right. That's that from me. We'll move around our team who have a variety of questions for you. Starting with Sriram Veerabhai, if you can.
Yeah, hi. You just said that, you want this to be seen as my team, and victories and losses will depend on it. Come on, team. So, taking that as a given, if you were a captain, how much involvement, powerful would you want your coach to be? And, where's that line? Mike Hesson, the coach, had told us a few days back that, you see, there's a paucity of good natural captains. There are a lot more coaches. So, so how much do you think, are these cricket going with the football manager style? How much of input would you like to step in, give constant direction? What is it, right? Where does cricket stand?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I made it sound like then that this whole team is all about me. It's certainly not about me. I'm the head coach and I'm the one that's responsible for the wins and losses. But at the end of the day, it's very much, as you know, once the game starts, the team is very much handed over to the captain. The coach can do very little once the game starts. And, I think it was pretty clear with what we did at the auction and by doing what we could to bring Shreyas Iyer to this team and to this franchise, it was really clear from me and from the owners that we wanted to bring in the best possible Indian captain that we could. And I think we got our man, and I think he's led from the front in game one. He's certainly been terrific around the group, and it's not. I don't think a coach of a cricket team, I don't think has the same pull or impact around a team as a manager does of a football team. I think it's slightly different than that. I like to be able to share my thoughts and ideas on the game with the captain and a few of the more senior players. We don't necessarily include everybody into everything we do as far as the tactical side of the game is concerned, but very important for me that the relationship between the captain and coach is as strong as it possibly can be. And that's the other reason that I went so hard and so heavy for Shreyas in the auction. I've worked with him for a long time at Delhi. He's one of the great players that I've worked with. He's one of the great people that I've worked with. And he's an IPL winning captain. And we've just got a terrific relationship where we both respect each other and respect our roles, and no doubt that we can become a lot closer and work a lot better over the next couple of months.
With Shreyas, it's fine. I mean, you got the right point. I was just talking in general in IPL as such, or captaincy generally. If there is a weak captain, a new captain, there was a talk about, for example, Venkatesh Iyer becoming one of the captains. It didn't happen. They went to an experience base. So in that regard, is there chance, opportunity for the coach to do a lot more? Not only after the toss, I mean, even after the toss from, we saw Ian Morgan signal in getting, advices from the dressing room. Is there any harm in cricket going the football manager way? Why, that's what I wanted to know. Where's the future?
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, I think it'd be very rare that an on-field captain doesn't look for and seek advice from the dugout at some stage. Dhoni may be the only one in IPL currently that doesn't do that. Even in our first game, there was with lots of advice going from the dugout back out to Shreyas, and Shreyas asking a lot of questions for us in the dugout about what we thought about what the game needed. And I guess a prime example of that is the way that we used our impact player in that first game with Vishak coming in as late as he did. There was a lot of tactical stuff that went behind that. We actually had 3 guys ready to go. We had 2 spin bowlers ready to go, and we had Vishak ready to go, and we're waiting for the right time and the right moment to bring our impact player into play. Now that had something to do with what GT were doing as well. We were continually looking over at their dugout. We wanted to know if they were going to use Rutherford or Glenn Phillips as their impact player. And once we knew who their impact player was, it made it clear for us which way we should go. So that all happened through communication, and that'll continue to happen. As I said, maybe Dhoni, he might be the only one that doesn't seek that. But even with the IPL the way it is now, with the timeouts that you have, you still have a chance as a coach or a coaching group to have a chat to your captain or your senior players and maybe help them out with a few things.
Okay. Thanks. Moving on, just one question about Kagiso Rabada told us a couple of days to Vinayak, in fact, that if this is going to be the trend, might as well name the sport batting. Don't call it cricket. So, such as how it's loaded against the bowlers. So, if you agree with it, what are the 2 or 3 changes you would like to see cricket incorporate to sort of level the balance even in T20, if you agree?
Look, I think there's no doubt last year the wickets were probably the best that I've seen them in an IPL season. The wickets were terrific last year. There's been some high scores made already this season, but I think a lot of it comes down to the approach of the batters now. I mean, the impact player has definitely made a difference to the way batsmen approach their innings. The other night, because we've got high quality all rounders in our starting 11, which was by design. At the auction, I was very keen to bring in guys like Marcus Stoinis and Glenn Maxwell, because that gives you a lot more flexibility with your impact player and what you can do. So, even in game 1, we had Marco Jansen batting at number 9. So that if you've got someone of that quality batting at number 9, it means the batsman can go pretty much from first ball to the end of the 20th over with not a great deal of concern about being left short as far as quality batting's concerned. So that part of it's changed. I think batting skill, and this might be coming from more of a batsman as well. There's no doubt that it's got harder for the bowlers, but I think batting skill has evolved more than what bowling skill has through the last probably 15, 18 years of IPL cricket. I mean, there's how many guys do we see that can consistently run in and bowl a good Yorker now, like Bumrah or Malinga once did? There's not many of those guys around, so why not? Like, what's stopping these guys being able to execute 4 to 5 Yorkers and over out of the 6? We saw even what Vishak did the other night, although it was a slightly different tactic with it being, the wide stuff. Where are the bowlers that can do that in each 10? There should be those guys around that can bowl consistent Yorkers. Nothing's changed. The wicket has the length of the pitch hasn't changed. A good Yorker is still a good Yorker, yet we're seeing that skill in the game, I think, dying off a little bit. So there's definitely room. Yes, it's definitely a game that's in the favour of the batsman now because of the impact rule. But as you saw the other night, we used the impact rule to our favour as far as a bowler was concerned, that had the right skills for the right situation. So I think the evolution of bowlers still has to be there and getting better.
I have one question more, but the time is up. I'll come back to that later time permitting. Sandeep, you can go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sandeep here. One thing we've observed in your persona from your playing days, there's a confidence in you which always comes across, be it as a batter, as a captain of the Australian team, the way you would walk in with the entire team, and you knew that you were in control. Same we see when you're sitting in the dugout. Is it something which you were born with, or it availed over the years, or is it because of the skills you had? How important is confidence to a sports person, maybe for a captain or even for a batsman? And of course, your part, like how did this characteristic come in you, the confidence bit?
Yeah, I mean, the confidence thing for me, it all comes down to how you prepare. Like, if you're well prepared, then there's no reason that you shouldn't be confident. You know, if you know your game well enough, and you know what you have to do to get yourself well prepared for every game, then there's no reason why you can't walk in absolutely full of confidence. I mean, a great example of that right now is Shreyas Iyer. I mean, you watch him walk out to bat the other day. He walked out with a certain amount of swagger about him because he's confident. He knows he's playing well. He knows he's preparing well, and he knows if he does his little things right, then he can't fail. That's the thing that I always say to the players. If you prepare as well as you can, and then you go out and stick to your game plan, you can't fail. Yes, you might make a mistake, but you've actually done everything you can to make an impact on the game for your team, and that's all I want from any of my players. And that's the way that I was as a player. I worked as hard as anyone, I believe, through my career on my batting or my fielding to get myself ready to go. And I think it's more so in the T20 game. You hear players and coaches talk all the time about players playing with freedom. Well, you can't play with freedom unless your preparation is right. Like, if you're not confident in yourself and you've got doubts in the back of your mind, then it's impossible to play this game with freedom. So, some of our younger Indian players, that's the conversations I've had with them for the last 3 weeks now, is you let me know the way that you want me to coach you. You let me know the preparation that you want, and I'll make sure that I get that done for you every single day. And then you can feel confident, you can be happy, and then you can go out and express yourself. So I think Priyansh Arya is a good example of that first game. A young kid, hadn't played before, walks out on the big stage against Siraj and Rabada, and he was full of confidence. He just played his own way, played the way he wanted to play, and he had success. It won't always happen that way. It's not going to be that easy every single game for these young boys. But as long as I can play my part and get their skills in a good spot, that allows them then to go out and play with freedom, and that's what we're all about as a team.
Yeah. Virat Kohli once said that at times he used to fake his intensity, even if he was not that confident, but you need to give the impression to your rivals that, okay, I'm in control. Did you ever do that? Did you face that situation, or does it work?
Oh, look, I think guys like Virat, and probably even me, it's guys like Steve Waugh, maybe, sometimes they needed a little bit of extra motivation to get themselves up and about. Steve Waugh would quite often look for some sort of niggle on the ground to really switch him on. He'd go and find an opponent that he knew that if he said something, they'd say something back, and then away they'd go, and that would get him going. Brian Lara was a bit the same. He knew with Lara, you had to stay away from him. Don't engage him at all, because as soon as you engaged him, then that just was like it was flicking a switch, and he turned into a different person and a different player. And you can see that a little bit with Virat as well. They're the sort of guys you can just let go, and if you sense that they are struggling, don't tell them. Let them try and battle it for themselves. Sometimes that brings them undone. So I'm not sure if it's ever faking it. Sometimes you just have to find a way to get that little bit of extra motivation out from somewhere else to get yourself up. So, and that's also a big part of a coach. I'm spending all day, every day with my 25 players here and all the coaches. And, every day I'm looking at some little way that I can just motivate them or make them better on that day. So, the last thing I'll say to every one of our boys every night they go to bed is, I want you to come tomorrow and tell me one way that you think you can improve and one way you can get better. And that's what we're all about. We're all about continual improvement and being different and being daring and playing a style of cricket that we know is going to hold up, and we know that people are going to enjoy watching. And that's, so for me, I've got to find ways to challenge players every day.
Just one last question. Ricky, Indian cricket will be always deeply obliged for you for the conversation you had with Rahul Dravid at the end of a series where Rahul was having didn't have a great series, and you said that don't entertain the thoughts of retiring, and he listened to you, and then he had a terrific, I think, his best ever England series, right? So, what it is in a player which you would see or try to understand that okay, his time is up, and more so in India right now, like the same debate is on about Virat and Rohit to more extent after the Australia series. Anything you would suggest or advise them, because what were your observations about them after the Australia series?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Dravid thing, I could see, it was obviously a series against us. You could see, we could all see that he was battling. There was a lot of media talk about it. You could see that the media talk was really starting to wear him down. And Rahul and I had always got on really well. Like, we were fierce competitors. We, both number 3 batters for our country for long periods of time. Both ended up having quite similar Test match records.
Exactly.
And so at the time, I felt for him a little bit, but I know that with players like that the class and the quality doesn't leave. It doesn't go anywhere. It's sometimes it just gets buried under a lot of other stuff, and certain people can't find their way out of those holes. So, I just had a chat with him to say, look, forget about all the external stuff. Believe in yourself. Go back to the things that have made you such a good player. If you focus on those things and don't worry about the little things, then I'm sure you can finish off your career on a really strong note. And that's all I said. And, he went away and did that. And guess what? When I was at the end of my career, I got the same message back from him. He returned it to me when, the last 2 years that I played, I didn't make as many runs as I would have liked, similar sort of situation. And, yeah, he was the first one on the phone making me aware of the things that I had to say to him. So, look, with Virat, I mean, I've been on record with Virat for the last couple of years. You never write off quality players. We had a lot of talk around McGrath, a lot of talk around Hayden, these guys at the back end of their career, but they're champions for a reason, and they'll always find a way to come good. And at different times over the last couple of years, Virat's been able to do that when it's looked like he's been getting in a big hole. He's found a way to get himself out of it because he's such a high quality player. So. And maybe, Rohit a bit the same. I mean, I think Test cricket's the thing for those two that's sort of becoming a little bit harder right now. Rohit's made it really clear that he's going nowhere in the 50-over game. And Virat, I'm on record saying, I think is the best white ball player that I've ever seen. So I'll never write those guys off. Whether or not I'm going to send them the same message that I sent Rahul Dravid at the start of an IPL is a different question, but... look, I love watching those guys play international cricket, and hopefully they can play for years to come.
Thanks, Rick.
We have Nihal next. Nihal, please.
Hello, Ricky. Just wanted to ask you, there was a recent survey by the World Cricketers Association which said that only about 49% of the players thought that Test cricket was the primary form they wanted to play. But the issue is that this percentage has fallen from the 80s about 5 years ago to about 49. As a legend of the game who scored 41 centuries and over 13,000 runs, does this worry you? And also, what do you think can be done by the ICC or the governing bodies to make Test cricket more attractive for the players, for this generation of players?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that is a worrying trend. I wouldn't have thought it'd be that low now. If you say 5 years ago it was 80%. I mean, it's a worrying trend, but it's a trend that I'm not surprised with. I mean, the interesting side of that was if you asked Australians, Englishmen, probably Australians, Englishmen, Indians, and maybe South Africans and Kiwis, I think if you surveyed them only, I think that percentage would probably be a lot higher than the 49 that you're talking about. It's, I can understand with some of the smaller Test playing nations. And when I say smaller, I say that I mean the teams that probably aren't making as much revenue from the Test match game. So, a Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, West Indies, Zimbabwe, these sort of teams, I think if you ask them, they would probably be the majority of that 49%. The minority, if you like, because all their income is coming from the shorter formats of the game, and they're playing more and more T20 competitions around the world. So, yeah, look, it's been the actual survey that'd be interesting is what they say on the 50 over game as well. That would also be very interesting. But so yes, I am a little bit worried about the health of the game and Test cricket. What would I do about it? I mean, there's been lots of different things talked about. I think the World Test Championship has definitely added a bit more context to every Test match. I'm not a fan of the two-tier system that I've been hearing being talked about the last 12 months. I just don't understand how that would work well enough. Yes, you're going to have the better teams playing more against one another, but that's actually happening now anyway. The concern I have is that no one really cares about the smaller teams playing against each other. And if you have two tiers, that's going to happen more and more. The TV money won't be in the game for those series. So straight away, those players are going to be big, and those boards are going to be making less money. So I'm not sure how the two-tier system would work. But, look, Test cricket, I think, will always remain reasonably strong. I think the bigger worry I've always had is where the 50-over game is going to fit in maybe 10 years' time.
Just about the 50-over game and the Champions Trophy, we saw how the Indian spinners sort of choked most batsmen from most teams. Teams were not able to score. Maybe Steve Smith found a way for a short while. But like those pitches were slow, of course. But just looking back, I can't imagine you or say a Kevin Peterson or even a Mohammad Azharuddin being tied down so much against spinners. So do you think that the skill of batsmen today is fast deteriorating against spinners? They don't use their feet enough. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure if the skill has dropped off at all, but I think being able to properly time a one-day batting innings, I think now is. I think the rhythm and tempo of one-day batting is probably not there like it used to be because of how much T20 cricket's being played. It's sort of. I think the 50-over game now, teams are trying to play it like a longer T20 game, and I think England are the best example of that. They've got no idea how to put together a batting innings in 50-over cricket. That's been proven over, the last few years now. Go back to the World Cup. They were dreadful in the 50-over World Cup. They were dreadful in the Champions Trophy, and they've got talented batsmen there, but I just don't think they play enough of the 50-over game to understand the rhythm and tempo of a batting innings. And I think, so playing of spin, I think that comes back to that. I think as soon as the spinners come on now, it's like you think you've got to try and take them for 20 runs and over, and in the right conditions, you can't do it. You've got to find a way to score it, 70, 80, sorry, not 70, 80, 90, 100 runs per 100 balls without taking too many big risks and getting out. So maybe some of that skill with, strike rotation, hitting gaps, running hard between the wickets, the stuff that sort of always made the best 50-over players what they were, maybe some of that's gone. And, I mean, if you think of the best 50-over players now still. So it's Virat, it's Smith, it's Williamson, it's Root. What do? That's exactly what they do. They are the skillful players. They're not the out-and-out power players. They're the skillful ones that rotate the strike. They face very few dot balls. They pick up lots of twos without the excessive amount of sixes that a lot of other players hit, but they find a way to get it done. So maybe you are right. Maybe some of the skill of being able to manipulate fields against spin bowling has gone out the window. When actually, if you think about the modern game, it should be a whole lot easier for players to do that because of the field restrictions that are in now compared to what they used to be. I mean, there's a lot of time now when spin bowlers have to bowl with only 4 fielders out. So that theoretically should make batting a whole lot easier. And I think, to be honest, if you look at it through the last probably 10 or 12 years when those field restrictions have been in is when you've seen a lot of higher strike rates from batters and a lot of higher batting averages because of, the two new balls is a big advantage, I think, for batting. And the field restrictions is another massive advantage for the batters. And that's why you see, guys like Virat with 50 one-day international hundreds and how quickly he gets them. There's no doubt in my mind that batting's easier now than it once was.
Ricky, I also wanted to ask you, that you've been player, but now you're being coach. There must be times when you felt like pulling out your hair, right? Like, how do you control your emotions based on what you see on the field? Just an example, I mean, I'm not picking on a player, but Glenn Maxwell is someone who can play a high-risk shot in a high-risk game first ball itself. So how do you, what do you have a, do you talk to a player like Glenn Maxwell, or do you just let him be? And how do you control your emotions in such moments?
I don't always control my emotions. That has to be said. I did. I did the other night with Maxwell. I knew I was going to be on camera, so I sat there with like my finger in my mouth, and
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't let too much out the other day. But if you could feel what was going on inside here, things are a little bit different inside than they were probably on the outside. But look, that's the 50 over game. You're going to have your ups and downs with that. Do I talk to the players? Absolutely, I'll talk to the players. I talk to the players about making the right choices, making the right decisions. But more importantly, making sure they stick to their own style of play. Now, we've seen Glenn play that shot millions of times, and he probably plays it as well as anybody in the world. So the fact that he got out first ball doing it the other night, I won't say anything to him about that option, because I actually sent him in to try and do something like that. I sent him in that stage to try and put some pressure back on the spin bowlers. Kishore was bowling. Rashid was probably going to bowl at the other end. I wanted him in with Shreyas, two of our better players of spin, to really put some pressure back on the opposition. So it didn't work the other night, but it will work. If I keep backing Glenn Maxwell in the tournament, then it'll work and it'll come off and he'll win us some games. And that's all I want from him. I want him to feel like a match winner, like all of our players. I want him to have an impact on games when they can, at the right time and with the right matchup. Unfortunately, Glenn wasn't good enough the other night, but guess what? In 2 days' time against LSG, then he might be good enough then. So that's the attitude I have towards things like that.
Thanks, Nihal. We have Sandeep next. Sandeep Gopal, please.
Hi, Sandeep. Ricky, going back to playing days, can you explain about the pull shot? You were such a terrific puller of the ball. What went behind that pull shot? Was it something that came naturally to you, or can you just explain on that?
Sorry, the pull shot, was it? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I guess if anyone sort of understands my upbringing in the game, I was a 12-year-old boy, playing against fully grown men, some of the best bowlers in my state. I was playing with the Mowbray Cricket Club. We had 3 or 4 fast bowlers in the state squad at the time, and I was batting against them in the nets on artificial grass, on synthetic wickets, without a helmet. So, I never had a helmet growing up as a kid. That's just the way that we, my generation, I think, grew up like that without helmets. So because I was a little boy basically playing against these men and playing on really bouncy wickets, the ball was always bouncing up really high for me. So I had to try and find a way to combat that style of bowling. And, if you think about, and I'm sure you've got a bit of an image in your head about my technique, I was on the front foot all the time. I had a big backlift. The bat was always up nice and high. So I was always in a good position to play a hook shot and a pull shot anyway. And that wasn't, I don't think that it was nothing that I actually consciously thought about. It was just something that happened with my technique. And, even I went to the cricket academy as a 15-year-old, once again, still a boy, and training there every single day, twice a day against 20, 21, 22-year-old men that were some of the best up-and-coming fast bowlers in Australia. Glenn McGrath was in my year at the cricket academy, and he wasn't going to go too lightly on this 15-year-old boy from Launceston. So I had to find a way to combat what he was doing. And so that just became a big part of my arsenal, if you like, as a batsman. And when I had that shot that I played well, I was looking to get on the front foot all the time. And if bowlers over-pitched, I was good at hitting back down the ground. And, what that did was let the bowlers know that if they dropped a little bit short, then I was going to play a pull shot. If they were a little bit full, I was going to drive it back down the ground. So theoretically, what my technique did was made the margin of error for bowlers really small.
Yeah, growing up in those days in Australia, it was intensely competitive. So how was the atmosphere there? In that Australian late 90s and early 2000s, how competitive was it?
It's competitive. It's competitive anyway in Australia. We've only got the 6 state teams, so you've got to be a very good player just to play state cricket in Australia. It's as simple as that. And if you didn't, back in when I was coming through, if you had a lot of talent, you didn't necessarily have the right attitude, then you weren't going to make it even into a state setup. And then that obviously flowed back into club cricket and grade cricket. So it's always very competitive, and that's the way it should be. When I was coming through Spots in the batting lineup in that Australian team weren't easy. You know, you had guys coming through with me like Damien Martin and Greg Blewett and Justin Langer and Matty Hayden, Michael Bevan, Darren Lehman, these sort of guys. It's Stuart Law. It wasn't easy to get into the Australian tean, so you had to make sure you did everything right to get an opportunity. And thankfully, you know, I worked hard enough. I got an opportunity, and yes, I had my ups and downs early in my career. Got dropped a couple of times early on, but now you look back and 168 Test matches later ended up being a pretty enjoyable career.
Yeah, Ricky, just one more question. Ricky. Like you used to feel in a lot of different positions. I mean, like you were in the first slate, you Sealing and non-Sealing, wherever your place used to feel brilliant. So, I mean, how was it like? I mean, how did you develop this versatility in fielding in different positions?
Oh, just because I wanted to. You know, that's the other way that I coach now. I'm such a big believer in being able to be a good fielder is all about attitude to the game. If you want to be a good fielder, you can. If you're willing to put in the time and effort to be a good fielder, you can. Now, some guys are more athletically blessed than others. You know, some guys are going to move quicker. Sometimes some guys are going to dive better. Some guys are just better athletes. But if you want to be a good fieldsman, you can. So, you know, being a batsman, you know, you spend so much of your time as a cricketer in the field. If you want to enjoy the game, I think if you're good at something, you're going to enjoy it more. And I just try to be as good a fielder as I can because I knew that I could impact games and help my team out if I was a good fieldsman. So, you know, I've only seen all these stats since I finished, but I know I ended up with one of the highest catches in Test cricket history. I think I've got maybe twice as many direct hit runouts in the history of the game than anybody else. And that was because I just wanted to be able to impact the game for my team. Simple as that. You know, anytime I trained with the Australian team, I'd go in the same group as Mark Waugh and Greg Blewett and all the good fielders, and I'd stay there until I was better than them. So if they had a good day, I'd stay there till I hit the stumps more. I'd stay there till I had more catches. Because if a moment came in a game that I went for a one-handed catch and didn't make it, or I went for a direct hit run out and didn't get it, then I wouldn't be able to live with myself because I felt that I let my team down. So that's the way that I looked at it, and that's the way that I try and coach fielding to all of our players now.
Well, so I'm taking that answer as Ricky Ponting over your team. Thank you.
I didn't hear.
Thanks for that. No, he's saying he'll take that as Ricky Ponting rather than Jonty Rhodes. But
Okay, right.
we have Mihir next. Mihir, please.
Hi, Ricky. A couple of quick questions. We've read about the demolition of Gabba earlier this week after the 2032 Olympics. You've had some good memories there as a batsman, lots of Ashes win. What kind of emotions that leaves you with?
Yeah, I did see that. I did see that headline actually the other day. I mean, it's been talked about for a little while about maybe a renovation of the Gabba at some stage, and I think they were talking about maybe doing a renovation there before the Olympic Games to have it as one of the Olympic venues. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happening with a new venue. I didn't read enough about it. Just saw the headline, but yeah, obviously as Australian players, you have a lot of good memories there. In fact, I don't think I lost a Test match there as a player. That'd be right. I think India were the first ones to win a couple of years ago. There weren't they in a long time. So as far as memories are concerned, yeah, I made some Test match hundreds there. Had some good one day international winnings there. It was one of the great venues to play because of how sort of different the Gabba was than most other places around the world. You know, with how grassy the wicket was on the first couple of days and the seam and swing that it tended to provide the fast bowlers early in the game, but it ended up being one of the great places to bat as well. So, yeah, a lot of history, a lot of tradition, and a place that, you know, all Australian players love playing at.
Right. We spoke about the direction the game's heading in. The Players Committee report that Nihal asked you about, they've also suggested, you know, about having a Grand Slam like 4 tournaments through the year where you go from one country to through the year. What do you think of that? And do you think, you know, players as well as coaches would then have year-long contracts with franchisees? Would that be the future of T20 cricket? Grand Slam-like tournaments and year-long contracts for players, coaches?
Look, once again, I know that's been spoken about a lot the last couple of years. I don't want to see it go that way. You I'm probably a bit too much of a traditionalist with the international game. I want to see Test cricket prosper. I want to see one-day cricket improve and be better than what it is right now. I think there's still a place. There's still a place for all of these competitions to survive and be able to prosper. But at some stage, the cannibalization is going to happen. We can't expect that every game of cricket, whether it be a Test match, one-day international, or T20, whether it's international or domestic, is going to be at its absolute optimum the whole time. And I feel for one-day cricket there as well, because one-day cricket's generally played either side of T20 tournaments. Fans obviously want to watch the T20s now more than they do the one-day game. So unfortunately, the one-day game is the one that suffers. But when we've seen the bigger events, I mean, if you wind the clock back a couple of years ago, the 50 over World Cup here in India was an incredible spectacle, a great tournament. So I don't want to see that go away. So is it inevitable? Maybe it is, but I'm one that's sort of holding on and hoping that it doesn't go that way.
Thanks, Mihir. We have Lalit next, our stats guy. Lalit, please go ahead, and last couple of questions we'll wrap up quickly.
Hi, Ricky. Just wanted to know your thoughts on how the idea of a T20 batting talent or an IPL auction pick has changed since the last time you played in the IPL about 12 years ago.
How has it changed? I think there's probably a lot less direct look at actual numbers on players. I think now, I mean, numbers are one thing and numbers tell a certain story, but certainly the way that we approached our auction strategy this year was, and we were a bit different than most teams because we had more spots to fill. We needed to build, as I said, from the bottom up with the best experienced Indian players we could. So strategy-wise, obviously, Iyer, Arshdeep, Chahal, Wadira, those sort of guys, bringing in experienced Indian players. And then the other part of that is, for me, I don't know how many hours of videos I watched this year, but I watched a lot of videos of young players. And what I look for is just out and out ball striking talent. And I think one kid you saw the other night, Priyansh Arya, has got that. He's got something a bit different. He's an out and out clean ball striker. Technically you look at him and, it looks a little bit unorthodox, but I'll guarantee you he's going to make a serious mark on this IPL, and he's already started with that in his first game. Suryansh obviously is another one that, if you look at talent, I mean, his numbers for Mumbai at the back end of his domestic season were outstanding, but since he's been here with us and he's been training, his ball striking is elite. And that's what I knew it was going to be. And I think that's where the game's going. You need these guys now that have got the right attitude and can come in and pretty much hit from the first ball. And that's what these two guys can do. So I think it's probably got away a little bit. Mumbai Indians are probably another good example with someone like Bevan Jacobs, for instance. Like, he's not a well-known or heard-of player, but he's got something different that's a bit X-factor in it with his sheer ball striking. So, and then, I mean, the other side of it is everyone's looking at different types of bowling action and mystery spin, these types of things. So I think a lot of those things probably have slightly changed over the last probably 15 years. But our scouts did a terrific job here by being able to find these guys and then send all these videos over to me. And it only doesn't take me that long to look at guys, and I look at the quality of bowling and see what they're doing and see how they're swinging the bat and how they're hitting the ball to work out which are the best. So we think we brought in a couple of really good ones this year, and it's really exciting for Punjab Kings going forward.
Just one last question, Devendra Pandey. Devendra Bhai, can you...
Hi, Ricky. Dhoni batting last night at number 9. If you were CSK coach, would you request him to bat a bit higher? And do you ever see him retiring from IPL?
Well, his keeping's not getting any worse. That's one thing I do know. He's not missing too many. It was certainly up with the stumps. He put a couple down standing back last night, but not ones that cost him anything. But his work up with the stumps against the spinners is as good as ever. Look, you're not going to argue against anything that CSK do. They've been one of the most successful teams in IPL history. They've had a coach that's been there for a long time. Assistant coach has been there for a long time. I think generally they make the right decisions. The thing with the impact player rule as well now is that, you can always, with Dhoni last night, you think of the guys that batted ahead of him. I mean, they're all serious ball strikers within their own right. Dhoni, I guess, the last couple of years has sort of been in a slightly diminished role, hasn't he? He's been used in that role where he might just go in for the last 10 or 12 balls and try and make a really big impact there. So, look, that's up to them to work out. I'm not going to tell them what they should and shouldn't do. But I know that he's still probably as dangerous as anyone in the IPL. And will he play forever? It might just depend how this season goes. It might depend. If he has a real impact with the bat, I think he'll keep playing. If it looks like his output with the bat is dropping off, then he might start thinking about it. But what a terrific player he's been for a long time.
That's probably all the time we have. I know you're heading for a shoot as well. Just one last question from me, Ricky, if you don't mind. You've mentioned this a couple of times. Where do you stand on the impact rule, all said and done? Are you in favor of it? Would you, if you are asked about it, would you like to continue with it?
Look, as a coach, I'd say no. As a spectator and a viewer, I'd probably say yes. I think that's the thing with this. I mean, it's not, a lot of the decisions are not only made on what is the best thing for the game. Sometimes it's the viewer and the TV that comes into a certain, like a big degree as well. And I know that because I work in broadcast back in Australia, and our bosses are always telling us about things that we can do to help improve the spectacle for the spectator and the viewer. And there's no doubt in my mind that that's why this impact player is there. Teams, what did we get the other night? 243 the other night, and probably felt like we didn't bat as well as we could have and still get 243. Sunrisers are getting 250 plus regularly. I'm sure viewers want to see runs. I mean, that's the only reason that it can be there. At the end of the day, it's not. I don't think it's there for anything else. They might say it's there to give another Indian player an opportunity and bring him into the game. But at the end of the day, if they're good enough to be if they're good enough to be playing in the IPL, they're going to be in your starting 11 anyway. So, look, as a coach, I'd much rather it just be pick your best 11 players and see how we go. But I understand the other side of it too.
Brilliant. That's all the time we have. We'd love to continue talking, but I guess you have other commitments. Thanks a lot for your time. I hope you had fun as well. With
no worries. Thanks.
Variety of questions. Thanks, Dhruvan, for setting this up.
Thanks a lot, Ricky.